Hey y'all, what's going on? It's Athena Amoeba, your friend in exploring the power of your mind, the power that you can use to create your own universe. In this video, we're going to be talking about the vocabulary of ultimate success. And this is based on Chapter 9 from Tony Robbins' book, Awaken the Giant Within. We're going to get into the power that words have to transform and create our lives. And we're going to do 2 exercises that will help us to transform the way that we use words in our lives. Now, the words that we use are so important because they actively shape our beliefs and our emotions, our state of being. So by changing the words that we use, we can actually change our beliefs and we can change our state of being. As you may know from previous videos, you need a good story, you need a good state, and you need a good strategy to create change in your life. Well, what are stories made up of, if not words? And the same words that create our stories create our emotional states, which we also need in order to create change in our lives and to live the lives that we want. If you haven't seen the video on story, strategy, states, I'm going to put the link in the description below. So the words that we use when we're speaking and even the words that we think to ourselves hold so much power, yet we rarely think about using them intentionally and using words wisely. To take a quote straight from the book, Awaken the Giant Within, an effective selection of words used to describe the experience of our lives can heighten our most empowering emotions. A poor selection of words can devastate us. So what this means is that we can literally take the same experience and use different words to describe it and actually end up having 2 totally different experiences. Another quote from the book to highlight just how important words are in our lives is, "People with an impoverished vocabulary live an impoverished emotional life. People with rich vocabularies have a multi-hued palette of colors with which to paint their experience, not only for others but for themselves as well." So what this is saying is that the more words that you have to describe your experience, the better your experience can appear not only to others but to yourself as well. And this doesn't mean you have to have some fancy vocabulary. This just means that you use better words than alright. Like if someone's like, "Hey, how you doing?" "I'm okay. I'm alright." You know, even if you're gonna get serious and be like, "I'm doing terribly." I mean, actually, these exercises are trying to pull us away from that, but in reality, that's a more colorful, more elaborate, more specific word. Someone will actually know more about you if you actually answer with terribly versus like, alright. When people answer that way, and I answer that way all the time, I'm like, alright, like, is that good or is that bad? Like, I really don't know what alright or okay means. Like, to me, okay is just like, oh God, help me. Like, that's what okay means to me. But anyway, point is that words really do paint a picture for someone else and for yourself. And not only do they paint a picture, but they actually shape your experience. To pull an example from the book, Tony Robbins talks about how himself and 2 other people basically got screwed over in a business deal, big time. And while all 3 of them were equally as impacted, they all 3 used different words to describe their experience and how they were feeling. The first guy flew off the handle and was saying things like he was livid and he was furious and like he was expressing it, and he was really in that state of being livid and furious. Tony Robbins himself was upset, and he used that exact word. He said he was upset and he was angry, but he wasn't flying off the handle and outraged and livid like this other guy, but he was upset, you know, he felt it. He was just like feeling upset, feeling angry. Those were the words he used to describe it. Then he turned to the third guy to ask him how he was feeling because he seemed to be calm. And he said, "Well, how do you feel about this situation?" And the third guy said, "I guess I'm a bit annoyed." And Tony Robbins and the first guy couldn't believe it. They were like, "Annoyed? Like, aren't you upset? Aren't you livid? Aren't you outraged?" And he said, "Well, you know, I guess this situation does make me a little peeved." Annoyed and peeved were the words that he used to describe how he was feeling. And then Tony asked him, "Well, you know, do you usually get upset? Do you usually get angry?" And he said, "Not really. I really don't. It usually takes a lot to get me to that point, and I rarely get to that point." So then Tony thought deeply about this. He thought, well, does the fact that these words aren't really in his vocabulary affect how he actually feels? So Tony himself went on to try this as an experiment. In his daily life, whenever he was feeling upset, whenever he was feeling angry, he decided to use a different word. He decided to use the word peeved because he thought it was such a funny word, and it really kind of just diffused his actual feelings of anger. So he gave an example about how he had been traveling really long hours and he was really exhausted, and he was trying to check into a hotel, and the person at the front desk was moving at a glacial pace. And, you know, he was not thrilled about it. He was actually getting really upset, but he didn't want to get upset at this person. He was just exhausted. And so he told the guy at the front desk, he said, you know, I'm super exhausted. If there's any way that you could speed this along, because I'm afraid that if you don't, I'm gonna become a little peeved. And then the guy looked at him, the guy at the front desk looked at him, and they both just busted up laughing, and they ended up just having a good time, a great conversation. It's all in the book. You can read all about it, all the details in there. And the point is that that really transformed his state, actually using that word and thinking differently about his experience changed his experience. If he didn't have access to that word peeved, he may have flown off the handle and gotten so upset at this guy, and they would have had a totally different experience. Tony Robbins goes on to describe this practice of changing your words as transformational vocabulary. You can use words to transform your experience by changing the words themselves. Change a word, change your experience. Use a new word, you have a new experience. Because the words that we attach to our experience become our experience. So now let's focus on you and how you can use this. Right now, we're going to do the first exercise from this chapter to help transform your vocabulary so we can transform your life. So what I want you to do now is find some way to take notes, whatever way you prefer, whether that's pen or paper, whether that's on your computer, whether that's on your phone. Get your note-taking method out now. So go ahead and pause this video. Okay, hopefully you paused it, hopefully you did it, because we're back and we're going into the first exercise. So the first thing that I want you to do is think about when you're feeling bad. What are the more negative feelings that you feel on a daily or regular basis? And what are the words that you would use to describe how you feel at your worst times throughout the day, throughout the week, on a regular basis again? Go ahead and write those words of negative experience down. Now, your 3 most commonly used words, or 3 of your most commonly used words. Some examples of these type of words would be angry, upset, frustrated, depressed, rejected, unappreciated, stressed, miserable. I just did this exercise again myself before filming this video, and I'm like, mind blown. So my 3 words that I chose that I use regularly when I'm feeling, you know, at my worst on a regular basis are overwhelmed, insecure, and exhausted. I use these words all the time when I think about it, especially overwhelmed and especially exhausted. I feel like insecure, I don't really use it so much as a word, but it's just like a general feeling that I tend to have throughout a day. A lot, but I think anxious might be another runner-up for how to describe that feeling, but insecure I think encompasses the idea of what I feel. So for me, overwhelmed, insecure, and exhausted. Oh my god, especially exhausted, I'm like, oh, it's so exhausting, or I'm so exhausted, or I'm emotionally exhausted. I say that all the time, so that's definitely one I need to transform. Overwhelmed I also use, like instead of stressed, I don't get stressed, I get overwhelmed. Like I feel it, I start to feel like it's too much, I'm overwhelmed. Even when I'm playing Pokemon at the pier, there's just so many Pokemon, it's overwhelming. So now take a moment to pause this video and think about what your 3 words are. Pause. Okay, I hope you paused it, because now we're back and moving on to the next part. So you should have your 3 words by now. Now what we're going to do is soften these words and replace these words to transform our experience. Now, when we're going to automatically go for that word of, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, or I'm so exhausted, what's a word that we're going to use to replace that to soften and transform our experience and make us feel differently about our experience and make us think critically about our experience. So for the replacement words, they don't have to be the opposite of the word, right? They could just be softened. So instead of so outraged, you could say a bit upset or peeved. Instead of saying I'm devastated, we could say I'm a little set back. These small changes will have an impact, trust me. The 3 transformative words I chose are unorganized or unprioritized to replace overwhelmed. Now there's so many words that you could choose to replace overwhelmed. Even challenged is a good one. And for me, I think you really have to dig deep into what you're really feeling when you feel overwhelmed. For me, I thought about it right now, and when I'm overwhelmed, it just means that there's too much and I don't have my priorities straight, or I don't have myself organized. So even with the simple Pokemon example, there's so many Pokemon and I feel overwhelmed because I feel like I have to catch them all. But if I know what my objective is, if I know what my priorities are, like am I trying to get Mad Stardust that day? Am I trying to get points that day? Like what am I trying to do in the Pokemon realm that day? If the answer is trying to get Mad Stardust, then yeah, I just want to catch them all and not worry about catching a specific type. But if I'm trying to evolve a certain Pokemon, then maybe I want to just like reject all the Tentacools and only catch, Dratinis or something. So simple example of how prioritizing and organizing makes me not feel overwhelmed. So instead of saying, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm gonna say, I'm feeling unorganized and or unprioritized, because that really gets to the root of what it is, and then that will make me feel like, oh, I just need to prioritize, or I just need to organize, and then I'll be fine. My second replacement word is unfocused. So instead of saying I feel ashamed or I'm feeling insecure, I'm just gonna say I'm feeling unfocused. Why? Because it probably means that I'm focusing on what other people think of me, or I'm focusing on all the wrong things. When I'm focused and I know what I'm doing, there's really no reason to feel insecure. And if I am feeling insecure, it means I'm focusing on all the wrong things. And using that word will constantly remind me to refocus and not care about what anyone else thinks about me, or stop thinking about what I think somebody else might think about me. Ridiculous, a waste of time and energy. For exhausted, I chose need to recharge. And this is because, if I'm feeling exhausted, as I like to say, that probably means that I am actually feeling depleted in some sort of way, and I need to find a way to recharge and replenish myself. So when I'm feeling exhausted, I'm just going to say now, instead of I'm feeling exhausted, I'm just going to say I need to recharge. And that shifts the focus of the experience to how am I going to recharge? Like, what am I going to do right now? Because clearly I need to recharge if I'm feeling this way. Instead of like, I'm exhausted and there's nothing I could do about it. It totally changes the experience, at least for me. So those are my 3. Now go ahead and pause so you could think about your 3. Unpause. Okay, we're back. Now, I wish I could hear what your transformative words are, because I love this stuff and I really want to know. So please put it in the comments below, because unfortunately you can't tell me right now. So yes, that was the first exercise in chapter 9 from Awaken the Giant Within on how to use transformative vocabulary. Now the second and last exercise is very similar, but instead of finding softening words to soften an experience we don't necessarily want to have, we're going to use intensifying words to amplify experiences and emotions we do want to have. So now for this exercise, think about 3 words that you use consistently to describe how you're doing. Like if someone asks, how are you doing? You say, okay, all right, like we mentioned a little earlier in this video. Or what are 3 words you use to describe your best of experiences and your best of states on a regular basis? Is good the highest that you can get to? Is good the highest you get on a regular basis? Think about it. What are 3 of the words you use most to describe your best of experiences? Some examples from the book are alert, alright, excited, focus, great, happy, and satisfied. My 3 examples of words I use all the time are okay and alright. I'm guilty of that thing I talked about earlier when people ask me how you doing. Okay, alright, pretty good. Actually, I think I say pretty good more than anything, so scratch that. Pretty good is my normal response. I also say awesome like it's going out of style. I think I say awesome way too much. Everything is awesome. Everyone is awesome. Okay, awesome, great, awesome, yeah. I think I need to find a better word or at least mix it up with a different word. So awesome is one of them. And another one for me is excited. I'm always like, yeah, I'm excited. Okay, great, I'm excited. And not that any of these are bad, but in doing this exercise, I thought, yeah, I do want to find a more creative or intense way to amplify these feelings. And thinking about amplifying excited was kind of a challenge. So, alright, now go ahead and find your 3 words. So push pause now to take time to think. Pause. Unpause. Welcome back. So now what we're doing is the same as before. Now we want to find words to intensify these feelings or transform these feelings. Magnify them. Whatever your 3 words are, we can find words to kick them up a notch or a couple notches. Some examples from the book are energized, gorgeous, superb, Mortal Kombat fans, impassioned, magical, explosive, spectacular, and invincible. There's a whole list of amplifying transformative words in this book. If you do not have access to this book, you can also look up synonyms for whatever 3 words you chose. The replacement words that I chose are blessed. I chose blessed to replace alright or pretty good because really I do feel like I'm actually very blessed and I want to express that more often, and I feel like if I have the practice of just saying it out loud when people ask me on a regular daily basis, how are you doing? And I respond, I'm blessed. I think it has a big impact on myself because it's like, yeah, I am blessed. You know what? If I'm thinking about some nonsense and you catch me off guard by asking me how I'm doing and I'm going to respond, I'm blessed, I think it's going to shift my mood. And maybe it might even shift the mood of the person I'm talking to, because that's actually happened to me. When I've asked people, how are you doing? And they say, I'm blessed, it just always makes me feel so good and amazing. I'm like, that's beautiful. Like, what a beautiful outlook to have, you know? And so I actually want to incorporate that into my daily life. So I think instead of saying, I'm doing good or pretty good, I'm gonna start saying, I'm blessed, thank you. How about you? Now, instead of awesome or in addition to awesome, I'm gonna start saying incredible. It's incredible. Like, how incredible is incredible? Now I'm just gonna not be able to stop saying incredible, like I can't stop saying awesome. But I think I want to say incredible, fantastic, and magical. I'm gonna add these in to my vocabulary this week, see how it goes. And then the final one I'm adding, I chose unstoppable. That's not a word I really use to describe myself, but I feel like if I do, it will totally transform how I feel about myself. You know, I honestly think that for a lot of what I do, I feel like I am stoppable. I feel like, you know, there are things that can and have stopped me, but I'm starting to feel unstoppable, and I feel like if I embrace that and start to use that as a descriptive word in my life, a description of myself, it will help to give me a boost and transform my life. So unstoppable is one that I'm adding to my list. So now back to you. What 3 words are you going to choose to amplify the best of your experiences? And pause. Okay, we're back. So I wish that I could hear what your outcome for that exercise was, because I love this stuff and I would love to hear it. So please comment in the comments below. I really want to know what your 3 words of transformation are now. So I hope you enjoyed this exercise. I hope that it was impactful for you and your life. I hope that you will actually use it as the days go on, because the magic is in the practice. I also want to share that the point of this exercise isn't to eliminate all negative emotions or negative words or states from your life. It's really to help us manage our emotions and manage and transform our states. Because it's not about never feeling negative emotions, it's not about never feeling bad, but it's about softening those states. It's about softening those emotions, because those are the ones that tend to take us over. You know, feeling depressed, feeling upset, feeling rejected, feeling overwhelmed, feeling stressed. Those are the things that tend to take over, and we lose control of our lives. We lose control of our ability to respond to life the way that we want to. The emotion takes over and we're no longer in control. So what this exercise serves to do, it's one tool or one strategy that we can utilize to take control back. So we're starting to feel angry. It's like, use a transformative word to change your experience. you're feeling angry, oh, I'm feeling so peeved, and see how that changes your experience. And I don't think that this one alone will completely transform it, but it's just one thing that we can utilize to help us control and manage our emotions so that we can respond to life the way that we want to, and we're not responding to life on autopilot because our emotions are running us instead of us running our emotions. So that's really all this exercise serves to do, is to soften those emotions that we don't want to take control, that we don't want controlling us, and to amplify the emotions that we want more of, that help us and benefit us in our life. That's what this exercise serves to do, and I certainly hope that it will do so for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for being a part of my journey of transformation, and thank you for letting me be a part of yours especially. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Until next time, y'all, use that transformative vocabulary to change your life. Much love!